Egg drop and egg roll. Kai shrugged his shoulders and twisted his torso a little, as if he were doing stretching exercises. Young friend, my body feels in need of replenishment. We have yet to complete our task, but our bodies must remain strong. We must obtain some nourishment.
Food.
There were a lot of fast food joints on Route 104, but Kevin couldn't quite picture Archie chowing down on a supersized hamburger and fries.
Wait.
The Jade Palace, the Chinese restaurant. It was just up the road. Archer. Yeah, I know where we can get some food. They started walking again. A few minutes' walk along the access road brought them to the Jade Palace, on the corner of a busy intersection. Kevin reached out to pull the door open, then stopped, his hand in midair. He'd almost forgotten. Archie, with his weird outfit and the bow and arrows. In the restaurant, people would see him up close, and what would happen then? Maybe I should get takeout instead. I could go in on my own, and he could wait out here for me, and we could find a bench somewhere. But it was cold. They'd been outdoors for a while now. It would be nice to sit down in a warm place. Kevin glanced at Archie again. The ticket taker at the zoo didn't even seem to notice him. Maybe it would be okay, we won't stay long. Just as Archie began to frown at the delay, Kevin made up his mind and pulled open the door. It was still too early for dinner. Kevin peered past the hostess stand into the dining room. Two women sat chatting at a table in the corner, but he was pleased to see that the restaurant was otherwise empty. Archie seemed very interested in his new surroundings. He kept looking around at the things on the walls, the scrolls, paintings, and carvings of old china. Since the last time Kevin had been there on his birthday, new decorations had been added for the Chinese New Year. Colorful streamers and lanterns, and lots of rabbits everywhere, on pictures and banners, and even a toy stuffed rabbit on the counter. On the wall, a poster. Days left until the year of the rabbit. The number 1 was on one of those tear-off pads. Kevin wondered idly if there was a 0 underneath. The hostess came out. She spoke in Chinese, addressing Archie, but he bowed and said nothing. She looked a little perplexed, and Kevin said hastily, "Table for 2, please." She led them to a table with 4 places. Kevin walked around to take the chair against the wall, but a glare from Archie stopped him. Clearly that was to be his seat. Kevin sat down across from him and watched nervously as Archie put his bow and quiver on one of the empty chairs. The hostess did a double take, but said only, "Your waitress will be right with you," as she left them. Archie leaned over and whispered, "Clearly, she is from China, but not any of the regions with which I am familiar. When she spoke to me before, her words sounded Chinese, and yet I could not understand them." Kevin thought that the Chinese language had probably changed a lot since Archie's time, the same way that English from, Shakespeare's time was really different.
Ant.
It's okay, Archer. They speak my language here, too. And do they intend for us to eat in this manner? We should be properly seated on the floor. As if Archie's outfit wasn't bizarre enough, the two of them sitting on the floor in the middle of the restaurant, Kevin almost had to smile at the thought. Archer, I know it seems strange to you, but in this world it's considered polite to sit on chairs and eat at a table. Archie cocked one eyebrow. Strange indeed. But at least I am able to sit with my back to the wall. His back to the wall. So he doesn't have to worry about what's behind him. Kevin was proud of himself for figuring that one out. At the same time, he felt a shiver of sympathy for Archie. I guess if you're a king in his time, you have to worry about stuff like someone trying to stab you in the back. Kevin scanned the big menu. $5 wouldn't buy them very much. He hoped Archie wouldn't want to order something really expensive. Soup and rice, Archie declared. Light but nourishing, that is what I need. Egg drop soup, $1. Steamed rice, $1.50.
Perfect.
He ordered those for Archie, and an egg roll for himself, $1.50, and he'd even be able to leave a tip. The waitress was the same woman who had given him the ice cream on his birthday. She recognized him and gave him a smiling nod. Then she glanced at Archie and smiled again, but didn't say anything. Maybe she thinks he's an actor in a play or something like that. Kevin finally felt he could relax about it. It's weird how people mostly just mind their own business. All this time, I haven't had to explain Archie to anyone. Good thing, too, because what would I say? That reminded Kevin that he'd have to think up some kind of explanation for the broken window. And for his black eye. He sighed inwardly. He often sort of stretched the truth a little, like saying it would only take him a few minutes to finish a video game, but he hardly ever lied outright to his parents. How could he possibly tell them the truth this time? He wondered if... Archer, did you ever have to lie to someone about something important? Kevin was surprised to hear his own voice. He hadn't meant to say anything out loud. Oh, that was a question. Archie had been examining his glass of water. He seemed especially interested in the ice cubes, even fishing one out to inspect it more closely. Ice, he mumbled, in small, uniform shapes. But why would one want one's water so cold when the weather outdoors is chill? Kevin had to smile. His mom didn't like ice in her water, either. She always said it made her feelings hurt. Archie put the ice cube back in the glass and then looked at Kevin. Yes, he said. It was not something I relished doing, but I deemed it an absolute necessity at the time. And the very fact that you voice such a thought means that your soul is, in general, an honorable one. Honorable? Seems like such an old-fashioned word. But it's kinda cool to think I might be an honorable guy. You see, Archie said as he gazed at some point beyond Kevin's head, Chumong believed that his situation warranted the untruth. Kevin leaned forward a little. The third-person thing, like before. Good, that means another story. When Chumong evinced his uncanny ability to relate to animals, the king realized that this might one day be useful. At about your age, Archie lifted his chin toward Kevin Dash, or perhaps a little older. Chumong was ordered by the king to oversee the palace stables. His royal father instructed him to undertake the training of 5 colts, one each for the 4 older brothers and one for the king himself. The horses were to be ready in time for a certain ceremony when the king would ride out to the countryside with his eldest son, attended by the other brothers, all except Chumong, of course. By this time Chumong was well aware that his position at court was a precarious one, and he decided to make preparations in the event that he should need a sudden escape. He considered long and hard before finally coming up with a plan. There were several colts in the stable that might one day serve as noble mounts. Chumong looked them over carefully and chose not 5 but 6 of them. He broke them to the saddle and trained them all well. In the moon before the date of the ceremony, Chumong chose the finest of the 6 horses, a handsome, spirited stallion. He asked the horses forgiveness and cooperation, and the ancestors' blessings and understanding for what he was about to do. Then he placed in the stallion's mouth a device he had constructed himself, a wooden splint that would impair the horse's ability to eat, but that could not be easily seen without close examination. Ouch, Kevin said, thinking, poor horse. Archie ignored the interruption. Naturally, the stallion grew thin and weak and could not run. When the king visited the stables to inspect the horses, he saw the other 5 fine mounts and was well pleased. You may also have a horse for yourself, he said to Chumong. That one. And, as Chumong had hoped, The king pointed to the skinny, pathetic-looking beast hanging its head in its stall. Chumong saw the brothers nudge one another, smirking over the king's gift to his youngest son. Chumong bowed his thanks and watched as his brothers and father rode off. Then he took the splint from the stallion's mouth and at once began the careful chore of bringing it back to full health. Soon the horse was once again the finest mount in the stable. And a few years later, Chumong was to ride this very horse, now his loyal friend, when he made his fateful escape from the palace. Archie blinked as he came out of storytelling mode. But Archer, you didn't really lie about the horse, Kevin said. You kept a secret. That's not the same as lying. Archie held up a warning finger. Deceit may come in many forms, young friend, but it is still deceit. Kevin tugged on the bill of his cap. He'd have to think about that some more. I chose a path of deceit deliberately, and it caused me great unrest, Archie said. Even though I deemed the deceit necessary for a greater good, I will not easily forget the stain of it. My hope is that the memory will serve to remind me how the path of truth is the only one of genuine honor, and that detours from it are always taken at some cost. Then Archie laced his fingers together and stretched his arms out in front of him. And now, young friend, he said, I will take a few moments to gather my strength in silence. I would, of course, prefer to do so alone and in harmony with nature, but the ideal is seldom available. I must take the opportunity as it presents itself and seek whatever good is there. With that, Archie put his hands in his lap, closed his eyes, and became still as a statue. Kevin immediately felt weird, as if he were watching someone sleep. Except that Archie wasn't snoring, and his mouth wasn't sagging open. Looking at Archie felt like invading his privacy, so Kevin glanced down at his placemat instead. There they were, the 12 animals of the Chinese zodiac printed in red around the edge, with descriptions of their characteristics in tiny lettering. Kevin looked at the tiger, his sign. He skimmed the description, having read it 100 times before. Courageous, adventurous, magnetic, but also nervous. Sometimes lacks discipline. He rolled his eyes. I guess they got that right, he thought. The corresponding birth years for each sign were also printed on the menu, going back as far as 1900. Kevin searched for his birth year. Kevin knew he was a tiger even though he'd been born in 1987. The 1986 tiger year went into 1987. Kevin's birthday was at the end of a tiger year. He could recall his dad explaining this to him ages ago, when he was little. He caught his breath.
Wait.
That means my calculations were off. What was it again? 2042 years total? That's wrong. If it's 1986 instead of 1987, that makes 2041 years. I think. Kevin sighed. I should start over. Start from the beginning, do each step again. 55 BC. The year Archie was born. 55 years. Then AD 1986 years. He gasped. That was wrong too. There was no such thing as 080. 80 started with the year 1. That made it 1985 years, which meant the total was 2040. Kevin had that combined feeling of satisfaction and disgust that always happened when he figured out what he'd done wrong on a math problem. Satisfaction that he'd figured it out at last, disgust that he'd gotten it wrong in the first place. He had the right total now. He just knew it. 2040 total years. Okay, so if he divided by 12, he'd get the number of cycles. Kevin wrote on his hand again. 2040 divided by 12 equals 170. No 1/6 left over. It comes out even now. He nodded. It was so much easier when things came out even, when there weren't fractions or decimals or remainders to deal with. Those always seemed like shoelaces that were way too long, that you had to loop up and tie in some complicated way so you wouldn't trip on them. 170 cycles altogether. Now what? Well, Archie said there are 5 different kinds of cycles. If I want to figure out which cycle I was born in, I'd need to know how many of one kind of cycle, since Archie was born. I know he was born in a fire cycle. That means divide, like before. 170 plus 5 is equal to 34. It came out even again. Kevin frowned. He was concentrating so hard, he was almost cross-eyed, staring at the invisible 34 on the palm of his hand. Exactly 34 times each element has cycled around.
Exactly.
Which means, wow. Another coincidence. He held up his hand as if the answer was written there. Archer, I got it. I'm a fire tiger, too.